Hey, welcome to another exciting edition of the Shoe and Show program. I'm one of your co-hosts today, Matt Priest. I'm joined by Sandi Mines, and today I'm very excited about our guest today, Sandi, because in a very short amount of time, when you think about footwear time, like there's some companies that are over 150 years old in our industry. But when you think about footwear time, in a very short amount of time, today's guest is leading a brand that is iconic, that is omnipresent, and that everyone wears. I mean, literally everybody. So let's just get right to it. Who's with us today on Shoe and Show, Sandi?
Yeah, today we have Mehlman, President and EVP of Crocs. Really thrilled to be talking to you today, Ann, and hear your story and get into some of these exciting new ventures that you have going on. So welcome, Ann.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here.
We'd love to start out by asking everybody their shoe story and how you got into the footwear market, and tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I spent the beginning of my career, most of my career actually, on the finance side. And so I joined Crocs in 2011, which was my first footwear experience. I'm from Colorado, so Crocs is an iconic Colorado company, which is exciting. And I started in our finance department here, and it was pretty early in the company's history. So we were establishing a corporate finance department. And it was pretty crazy back then, and very entrepreneurial. And I worked in the U.S. and then I went over to our European business, and I worked in Europe out of our Netherlands office. And then I came back, and we went through a pretty big transformation at Crocs, and we ended up selling a piece of the company to Blackstone private equity, and they helped us kind of reshape our management team. And that's when Andrew Rees, our current CEO, came in. So I worked under him, and we restructured the business. And so I did that for 5 years, and I worked at Crocs, and I left in 2016. I was the vice president of corporate finance, and I decided to go to Zappos.com. So another footwear, online pure play. So I was the CFO there. So I moved my family to Vegas, which was a lot of fun. And it was really fun to be on the other side. So instead of on the brand side, more on the retailer side. And, Zappos was owned by Amazon at that point. So I got to learn a lot about pure play, Amazon, Zappos, got to work with a lot of different footwear brands and did that. And then Andrew became the CEO of Crocs, and he invited me to come back as CFO in, I think, 2018. So I came back, moved back to Colorado, I was really happy to be back. I had 2 small children and my husband. So we moved back to Colorado, and I was the CFO for Crocs for 6 years, through a tremendous period of growth and COVID and a lot of unexpected things. But it's been great. And then last year in May, I stepped into the brand president role of the Crocs brand. So it's been a great journey.
That is a wonderful journey, Ann. And so I got a 2-part question. One, the sustained growth and just, again, that omnipresence of the brand is epic in our industry right now. And I think I have like 5 or 6 pair of Crocs, and I'm a middle-aged grown man, right? So the point being, it's like you guys are everywhere and you're killing it. One, what are some of the decisions that have been made to continue that sustained growth? And each CEO, each president, each brand lead comes to their position from a different route. You've got general counsel, you've got product people, you've got supply chain people. What about being a finance person gives you kind of unique skill set to make really difficult and maybe obviously decisions that help you thrive as well?
Yeah, those are great questions. I think, so to start with the growth piece of the question, I'm really proud that we've grown every year as a brand since 2018. So it's pretty amazing. I think inception to date, we've sold over 500 million pairs of shoes since we became a company. So your 4 Crocs are just a small piece of that. So thanks for supporting the brand. But, I think, we really reshaped the company and under Andrew's leadership, starting in kind of 2015, 2016, and really made the decision to focus on the iconic clog, right? We have this amazing shoe that is so iconic, that is so recognizable, right? We really created a category, right? People say like, I have a pair of running shoes, I have a pair of Crocs, I got a pair of sandals. It's like Crocs, it's a thing. And we gave people the ability to also, really personalize themselves with Jibbitz and brought self-expression to footwear. So I think that's really kind of focusing on that and bringing the consumer what they wanted and bringing that icon of molded footwear with personalization to consumers, and focusing on that has really driven that growth over a sustained amount of years and over many markets. We're an international company. So about, I think last year, a little over 40% of our business was actually outside of the North American market. So that's really having that, diverse distribution and really connecting with our consumers through our iconic clog has kept us relevant. And then, from a finance side, as CFO, you have a unique view of the company. You can really see the whole company, right? You really have exposure to all the pieces. And so I would say that's given me the ability to connect dots. And so that's what I bring to the role is I can kind of connect dots. I can read data and try to understand what's happening in order to guide us in some difficult decision making. But I'm really lucky. I have an amazing team. I think the best in the industry, very experienced, and they really bring that to enrich kind of, my ability to help run the Crocs brand.
That's exciting. I had no idea about that international distribution. That's a big number. And that's exciting. I want to pivot the conversation over to your collaborations and partnerships. You work with a lot of celebrities and athletes, and I want to understand how that all takes place and a little bit about how that affects your overall marketing strategy.
Yeah. So one of our strategic pillars is really disruptive, social, and innovative marketing. So we made the decision very early on at Crocs for many companies to go 100% digital social marketing, which doesn't sound very crazy right now. But in 2016, when we made this decision, it was a really big deal. And with that, it allowed us to just get really close to our consumer. So we could kind of follow what was happening, online and interact in the social conversation. And we became kind of part of the social zeitgeist. And I think that gave us the ability to do unique collaborations and really drive a lot of discussion around them because we were part of that social fabric. So, early on, we first started collaborating, we did Christopher Kane and Balenciaga, so some big kind of fashion houses, and then started playing with that a little bit more. So I think one of our most famous ones was our Post Malone collaboration that we did early in one of our early collaborations, which was really one of our interns actually noticed that he was posting about Crocs and Jibbitz on his social feed. And, of course, we all knew who Post Malone was. No, none of us knew who Post Malone was in 2018. So great news is that we had this intern and our CMO at the time, Terrence, who's now the brand president of Hey Dude, brought this forward of hey, we got to collaborate with this partner. And so, we did this and it was amazing. We released it. And what we noticed is that we were able to really interact with not only our fans, but the fans of Post Malone and bring them into the Crocs brand. And so we've now, obviously it's part of our secret sauce. We collaborate all along the spectrum. So we have, we collaborate with, Disney, and we have big licensed properties with them, but we just did Bape, which was an amazing collaboration. And why it might not be financially material from the number of pairs, we actually, it was so popular that there were lines outside of the Bape store in New York, and they actually ended up closing the store down because from the police perspective, just because it was so crazy. And, it sold out in minutes, and it drove this amazing conversation and connection with our fans. And so that's really, I used to call it as CFO as sort of self-funded marketing because, yes, we make money and we sell product, but it's really about driving relevance and interest in the brand and connecting with those consumers that follow the other brands as well as our own.
Yeah, I mean, and I think as you were talking about this ecosystem, this e-commerce, this digital, this brick and mortar ecosystem that you guys are managing so effectively, and then I think back to what you just said about connecting dots and the data. One, for me, I'm not a strong data guy in the sense, but there's just so much data that's got to be flowing in that, again, from your perch and your experience and your wisdom and knowledge, that you help connect those dots and then maybe see where, whether it's a brand heat moment, like you said, in New York, even if it wasn't a lot of pairs that you were selling through, you're able to really kind of see a landscape that some of us may just kind of you see the forest for the trees, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Is that a part of this? Are you able to handle all these reams of data that come in over kind of the digital space?
I think handling the massive amount of data out there is a challenge for any company right now, and just being able to synthesize that and figure out how to best use it. I think for us, it's interesting because there's different levels of data, but I think some of the best data that we actually get from on the marketing side is really just through social feedback, right? Is they're out there every day combing kind of social media, understanding what's happening, really up on trends, and then thinking about how do we take that and bring that into our marketing campaigns? And how do we also what do our consumers want? So some of our most powerful moments are really about just listening to what the consumer's asking for. So two kind of examples are we did a Crocs cowboy boot, which we called the Crew for Croc Day, which was really fan design. So, our marketing and product team said hey, there's this great product, the fans really want this from us. And so, we launched that 2 years ago and sold it on Croc Day, which is a fan created kind of holiday for Crocs, which is already amazing. And so we try to really listen and give people what they want. There was another one where we had a post that was actually asking for Lightning McQueen shoes in adult sizes. And they started a change.org, situation where we had, the marketing team went out and said if we get so many signatures, we'll make it. And so we did, we made it, we've redropped it 5 times or even more now. I think it's sold out every single time because, again, just looking for these small moments that the fans are looking for and staying close to connection. I think that data is the piece that we can respond to very quickly. And I think that is part of who we are really in our DNA. The bigger pieces of data of where we're trying to, take that and look at macro trends and understand how that's moving. Obviously, we're looking for, like everybody else, good solutions on the AI front to help us process that. Yeah. I would say we're getting better, but that world is changing so fast. So definitely something we're watching.
You do a great job on going beyond the classic clog, although that's super strong, of course. And again, your collaborations, your licensed partners and all of that. My kids were really into the recovery slide. I think that's what you call it.
The Mellow. It's great.
The Mellow. Yes. We've got a lot of those in the house. But my question for you now is, where's the white space? Where are you going next? Where do you see, Crocs diving into that you haven't already hit and that you're still staying true to your brand?
Yeah. It's a great question. We are the leader in molded footwear, right? We kind of, as I mentioned, created that category really through innovation. And so how do we, stay true to who we are, which is, our classic, our icon, our personalization, but yet, expand into other categories. So we've been focused on sandals for a number of years. It's within our DNA. So we have an amazing sandal business that puts us, as one of the top sandal players in the world. And that is, very much in our DNA. It's molded, it's comfortable, it's at a really good price point. So that's one place. And now we're also looking at where are other places we can play. We just launched some great fuzz slippers that are doing really well, that we launched last year. And then also, thinking about the sneaker space and how we can play in a molded DNA. So we have, our Light Ride, our In Motion Pacer, which is a new sneaker that we have out in market this year, but continuing to expand on that and really thinking about, how do we bring comfort, molded expression, personalization to other footwear categories, and then extension beyond that, such as molded bags and accessories.
So, and I want to unpack the conversation you just talked about on just how you interact and leverage the will of your fans and your followers. One of the things about the brand that is so cool, we kind of touched on this, is the fact that you have every type of consumer, the middle-aged dad in the suburbs, the urban young person, the international consumer. So you have a lot of demographics you're dealing with. So there's a lot of different cultural messaging, social media engagement, meeting the consumer where they're at. How do you it can be a landscape with landmines, but at the same time, how do you navigate that and create such a brand as iconic now as Coke? To your point, it's a whole category. It's like Coke is a soda, but everyone calls every soda Coke. We call every kind of clog, molded pair of shoes a Croc. So kind of walk us through that. What's the consideration with such a broad demographic?
Yeah, it's actually, very inherent to who we are. So I appreciate you bringing that up because one of our brand values is we're a democratic brand. We want to serve everyone, men's, women's, children, across all demographics across the world, right? And I think, and how we navigate that is we stay true to our brand values, right? Which is, our mantra is come as you are. We want to bring personalization, creativity, and expression to everyone and let people really express themselves. And so, I think that allows us, and all on our foundation of comfort and an accessible price point. And I think that allows us to really serve kind of across the spectrum. I mean, we do collaborations with everyone, as we mentioned, from, Post Malone, NASCAR, to Bape, to Disney, so we really kind of, and international as well. So we have, also some amazing collaborations that we've done in China. We just released a great one with, I think it's SMFK, which is a local Chinese brand. We've done Pop Mart, we've done, collaborations in Korea and really kind of all across the board. So I think it's, again, just really focusing on the consumers and what they want and staying close. We really try to stay true to our brand values of, accessibility, democratic, and really focus on, personalization and how, we think about trends in local markets. So one of the ways that we do that is, even though we have this iconic clog, which is our best seller, right? And that it's the same everywhere. Our biggest seller is, our classic everywhere. But we can be really locally relevant through our gibbets, which is our way of personalizing. So gibbets, those things that you put holes in your shoes, they call them giblets. I've heard them called everything, but they are called gibbets. And what allows us to be great is we can actually bring cultural moments that are relevant in different countries through gibbets. We don't have to make entirely new shoes. So you can kind of be same but different. You can wear a white classic, which is a blank canvas, and you can make it yours, right? Uniquely you, something custom that you can go into the store and leave with, which is really unique to us. And so I was actually in Japan last week, visiting with our Japan team, and we have some really fun Sakura gibbets out right now, right? Because it's that season. We have some Japan only. We collaborated with a Japanese sticker company to use their designs on our gibbets. So they're unique to Japan. And we can do that in any country for, any kind of unique cultural moment. So I think that allows us to be really culturally relevant without having, this huge kind of footwear line that nobody understands kind of how it connects back into our DNA.
That's really interesting. And bringing up gibbets, I did want to touch on your core values and bringing people in and inclusion and giving back and corporate and social responsibility. I saw that recently you had an initiative called Gibbets for Good. And I'd love to hear a little bit about that. I know Michelle Poole, when we spoke to her, she really emphasized the fact that Crocs really had a priority in making sure that culture was good and strong, and the values were really important to everybody, and giving back was definitely a priority. So I love that you're moving it forward, and I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah. So our purpose, right? So is, bringing comfort for our communities, bringing comfort for our employees, and bringing comfort for our planet. So those are kind of how we think about those three pillars. From bringing comfort for our communities, I think that really rooted very organically in who we are. When we started thinking about it, it started off really with, how do we make a difference in our communities when it's most needed? And I think we've always tried to figure that out. But during COVID, we saw there was a real need for shoes for healthcare workers, right? Crocs are great for healthcare because you can sterilize them and, they're easy on and off, and then people can leave them. And so we were getting all these massive requests for shoes, but we couldn't quite figure out how to get them out efficiently. So I remember Andrew calling me, and I was CFO, saying okay, we're actually going to give away, $10 million worth of shoes.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, this is when our stores were closed. We weren't sure how we were going to come out of COVID. I'm negotiating with banks, and I'm like, okay. And he's like, look, Ann, doing what's right in the world will always be what's right for Crocs. And he was totally right, because it was actually an amazing initiative, something I'm, the most proud of. If you talk about my time at Crocs, it's one of the things. And it was not just us. It was, everybody came together. It was us. It was vendors who helped us with shipping. It was, our banks helped us. I mean, kind of everybody came together and really did what's right. People still come up to me to this day when I tell them I work at Crocs, and they're like, oh my gosh, you gave my sister, my brother, me a pair of shoes, during COVID, and it was so impactful. So to me, I think that kind of grounded us in how do we make a difference? So we have an initiative now, which is Gibbets for Good, which is really helping people step up to greatness, which is how we think about having, especially young people, how do we allow them to step up to their true potential? So, so we're partnering with Girl Up to really allow us to, again, allow youth females to step up into greatness. And so we're very focused on that. And how do we empower through partnering with relevant foundations or, continuing to give shoes. So something we're all passionate about. So that's kind of a piece of it. And then we also have, on the environmental side, we approach that in a very unique way where we have bio-based resin, which is a more sustainable resin, which we're putting in all of our shoes. We're blending into our classic clog, and really allows you not to have to choose to be more sustainable. So the consumer wants to be more sustainable, but we're not making them choose. It's just they should feel confident that every time they can put on a pair of Crocs, they know that they're using a more sustainable material.
Yeah, I love that. Just forcing their hand to be more sustainable. So we've got a couple fun questions as we close out. And I've got one, Sandy's got one. And before we get to them, as you were thinking about, or you were talking about the Lightning McQueen reissue for the adult, it just comes to mind. There's a nostalgia built in. So as teenagers or young people or kids engage with media and movies and your product, when they become adults, they're going to still want access to it. I say all that to say that I've outed myself as a nerd on this podcast before, and I've done it with Crocs folks on this podcast before. I probably have 3 pair of Batman Crocs. And when you guys released the 1989 inspired, Michael Keaton inspired Batman Croc, it was sold out like instantly online. I was pretty down on it. And then I went to your store at National Harbor outside DC, and there they were, a golden wall of 1989 Batman Crocs. And I bought a size 12 because I'm a nostalgic kind of guy. And so I'm thinking to myself, what is happening now that you're going to have to reissue adult Bluey Crocs, once the kids are grown up, or some other Fortnite or some other thing I'm not even thinking about that kids are into right now. But when they're our age, they're going to want a pair. That's not my question, but maybe we'll ask it. Is that something you've thought about? Like, what's in the pipeline for kids now that you're already knowing you're going to have to create an adult version of it?
I love that so much. So we are trying to do a better job of creating adult versions, like the Sully slipper for Monsters Inc. sold out online really quickly, which is really exciting. If you haven't seen it, you'll know it's us. It's very much in our DNA and looks like Sully. So, but I love the nostalgia point because actually from a Crocs perspective, I always tell people this, for many kids that are now teenagers, and we talk about the resurgence of the Crocs brand, Crocs were the first shoe they put on their foot, right? Because easy on, easy off. Like, it's such a great parent shoe. Like, I have 2 kids and they don't want to wear anything else besides Crocs. And that's not because of me. That's just the functionality, right? Well, maybe a little bit because of me, but also, I think a lot of the resurgence in the early days was these kids coming back to the brand were adults, obviously not you because you embraced Crocs so well. It was a little weird to wear a molded clog on their foot. Whereas our kids who are now teenagers, or young adults, this was their first shoe, right? So they don't think it's weird at all. And so I have to think about who's going to be the nostalgia play, but but I love the Bluey idea because, I'm very connected to Bluey.
I'm sure.
I don't know. My kids were like very big into Daniel Tiger. So like maybe that's an area of win. Fortnite for sure. I mean, my kids will play anything that's like a video game. I don't know, Roblox. That's my daughter's current obsession. So I definitely think there's something there. I'm going to have to think about who is going to be our nostalgia play. But also I love your Batman because that's the best Batman. It is the best,
for sure. June 23rd, 1999. That movie came out. It changed my life. That's neither here nor there. My quick question, and then I'll pitch it to Sandy as we close out. Where's the most interesting spot you've seen a Croc pop up? Was it on like a head of state going for a walk, or a celebrity, or some just location on the trading floor of the New York Stock Exchange? Where has it been where you've run into a pair of Crocs and you weren't expecting it?
Oh my gosh, that is such a good question. So many different places in the world where you don't expect it. Like, I have not been to a country yet where I haven't seen a pair of Crocs, which is kind of weird. And I get emails from aunts, uncles, people traveling the world, and they'll be like, there's a Crocs store in this tiny Italian town I'm at. Like, that's weird. And I'm like, yeah, we're globally distributed in 90 countries. So, but from a celebrity perspective, I think the funniest one for me was Posh Spice, Victoria Beckham. She'll always be Posh Spice to me when she wore the mischief move, because she was posting how she hated Crocs and would never wear a pair of Crocs. And then she shows up with these mischief Croc boots on. And I was
yellow ones. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, wow, that is amazing. So that was we actually can turn haters into people who love the brand, no matter who you are.
I wonder what Mr. Posh Spice was wearing, David, next to her. Maybe the same thing.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. What you got, Sandy?
People say never say never. Things that you put in your closet, they come back. You never know. My question for you is, a lot of people ask me this question, but I'm going to ask you the question. If you're deserted on a stranded island and you could only take, or you only had one shoe to bring with you, what classic, what style, what would you bring from your closet?
I mean, that would have to be my white classics that are like personalized to me. Oh, but it would be really hard. So I have these white classics that are like mine that I created. I have 9 best friends. We do a girls trip every year. And we all bring like a gift for each other. So one year I made everybody their own personalized classic, which is a lot of work actually to fully load 9 pairs of classics, 26 holes in a shoe. So this is 26 units. So those are like my personal favorite because they really say everything about who I am. So I like those. And then I have these sparkly gold classics that were, when I was CFO, they were like my earnings classics. They were like my good luck shoes. And I love them. They remind me of like, you can do anything, we can win. So it would be tough between the two of those.
Yeah, those are good ones.
Those are good ones. We're binge watching Lost right now with my kids. So lots of desert and island talk. And, Crocs, I think, would be a great choice. You can wash them. You can dip them in the water. You can walk around with them. No socks needed. That's a solid choice for sure.
Agreed. We should try to figure out how to edit in some product placement into that. I know it's old, but maybe they'll
update. Yes. That's a great point. Well, Ann, we can't thank enough for coming in and hanging out with us today, giving us your wisdom and your insights. You really are leading a brand with a kind of a macro appeal across all demographics with a laser-like micro focus on what the consumer wants and needs. And we're big fans as we've nerded out with you, and we appreciate you hanging out with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was a lot of fun. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. So that's another edition of Shoe and Show. Go to shoeandshow.com for all of our great episodes. Also go to kicksovercoffee.com and actually watch this in person. We are now pushing this out via video after 9 years. We finally got video right. But we're grateful for your watching and listening, and be on the lookout for our episode next week with another great guest like Ann. And until next time, Shoe and Show is out.
Shoe In has been brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear. For information about FDRA, visit fdra.org.